Hi, my name is Nancy Love, and I'm speaking to you today on behalf of the Planet Peace Project, a fledgling organization designed to make the world a better place. The project is a series of informational topics and studies called Micropeace, and it deals with how to be a peaceful person. If we had all the peace between national boundaries that we could get, but we still lived in conflicted interpersonal relationships, it really wouldn't be a peaceful world now, would it? Today, I'd like to talk to you briefly about something that Albert Ellis, the father of cognitive psychology and president of the American Psychological Association, called shoulding on people. Yes, there's a bit of a play on words there, so forgive me, but that's his play on words, not mine. He said, don't should on people. Uh, you don't necessarily know what they've been through. You don't know what content now. To go around arbitrarily offering all kinds of unsolicited advice is not appropriate. It's not good interpersonal. It's not part of a good interpersonal skill set. Now, if someone stole it, you have a right, a legal right to say, don't, you shouldn't do that. So the question becomes, uh, how is it inappropriate to should have the right to go around offering unsolicited advice? The key word is unsolicited. You should offer an opinion. You should offer an opinion. But if people aren't even asking you for advice, number one, they may not take it anyway. Number two, they don't. Number three, opinion they would value. If they value your opinion and they know you well enough and they want your advice, they will ask for it. But stop shitting all over people. You shouldn't should. I have known several people who should all over people rather continually. These people are usually narcissists. Not always. Sometimes they are not particularly narcissistic, but they are obsessive compulsive. And obsessive compulsive people are always trying to control their environment. And if you're part of their environment, they may be trying to control you as well. Um, Now, narcissists are inherently controlling people. And I personally think that narcissism very, very frequently travels together. People should all over you look for OCD, look for narcissism, and back away. But you don't have to deal with the appallingly irritating advice that people are always giving you and people who don't have any sort of right whatsoever to offer you a lot of advice need to just go away. They need to work on their own lives. In one case, someone who should on people frequently was a guy who had obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, was narcissistic, had antisocial personality disorder, and was an alcoholic and drug addict as well. But he would be very, very happy to give you advice. Go figure. In another case, I knew she would shit on you the day she met you. She would shit on you without any understanding whatsoever the context you're in or the struggles you faced. But by God, this woman would just come straight into your life and offer you all kinds of unsolicited advice, which was completely ill founded or poorly grounded because she had no concept of the context that people were in or were facing. So she was basically a holy terror, or perhaps we should say an unholy terror. And people back away from her in a defensive posture the day they meet her. They literally go like this and throw up their hands and start backing away in fear or defensiveness. In a third case, I know a woman who initially seems very friendly. She does have what seem to be ostensibly good uh, social skills. But if you get to know her even for a few days or a week, she will offer you so much advice that you don't want and you don't need and you're not going to take and you're not going to ask for. It's very, very offensive. It's offensive on every level. Albert Ellis would call this a control freak who's shitting on all over people. This person will start sentences with, you should, you oughta, you should have, why do you, and she's constantly asking you why you do what you do. And then if you tell her, if you explain why you're doing what you're doing, she will tell you what you should do instead. It's none of her business. She is emotionally dependent. She is emotionally dependent on everybody else, from what I can tell. The one thing I've seen in these people who should all over others is they have lives that are basically, I know, who shoulds all over people, uh, has a life that needs work. They are often drug addicts or alcoholics. They have financial difficulties. They have domestic problems. They have so forth. They have divorces, or they need advice. They need counseling. They need all kinds of help themselves. But it's very, very common for people who feel that they are out of control in their own lives to try to control others. It's an extremely common principle in psychology that we see very, very frequently, that the sense that one has lost control causes a person very frequently to try to control everything that they can actually control. And if that's you, watch out. You don't have to accept this kind of behavior. My suggestion is to claim your emotional and your cognitive independence. Um, if you have to, talk to the police. If you have to, get physically away from the people. But do whatever you can do to get away from people who should all over you. The irony of all ironies is that you would think that studying psychology and learning how, at least to some extent, to do counseling or to be a life coach, that I would have learned how to say should a lot. Well, you should do this or you should do that. Actually, I learned the exact opposite. I had some wonderful mentors in my studies of psychology, and believe me, we studied Albert Ellis up close and personal, father of cognitive psychology. And what I learned while studying to be a counselor was don't point in my life for the last 30 years or more where I very, very rarely start a sentence with you should or you oughta. I don't start a sentence with a command. Don't or stop. I actually have a phenomenon. I was in the middle of a YouTube video